Hey everyone, so I've debated about making this video, but it's just been something that's been weighing on my heart, and I just wanted to share my story and my experiences with going through infertility. So as some of you know, John and I have been trying for baby number 2 since October of 2020. We found out that we were pregnant in December of 2020, and then in January I found out I was having a miscarriage. So with that miscarriage, it started off with spotting, and I wasn't too concerned about it because I did have spotting when I was pregnant with Noah and everything was fine. But I messaged my doctor. They wanted me to go for blood work, and then I found out my blood levels were low and I was going through the miscarriage. I think the hardest part about that miscarriage was a few days prior to finding out. We had just told most of our family that we were expecting. So now not only did I have to grieve the loss of my pregnancy, but I had to go back and tell all my family that I'm having a miscarriage. So shortly after that miscarriage, my doctor said we could start trying again. So we did. It took a few months. We got pregnant again in July of this year. And then August of this year, we found out we were experiencing another miscarriage. Both of my miscarriages were extremely early. It's considered what's called a chemical pregnancy, which is a miscarriage that happens before the 5th week. I was about 4 to 5 weeks with both of them. So I am thankful, which is weird to say. I'm not thankful for a miscarriage, but I'm thankful that they both were early, because I can't even imagine going through a miscarriage any further along, or even a stillbirth. And my heart goes out to all the parents that have ever experienced something like that. For a while, I felt silly that I was grieving a pregnancy that was only 4 weeks along. It felt silly that I was sad about something that barely was even there. But then I did learn through the Adeline Rose Foundation, when I went through my miscarriage, they sent me a care package. It had a teddy bear and a book about loss, and they helped me to understand that it doesn't matter how early your loss was, it's still extremely difficult to go through, and I don't wish it on anybody. Usually when you're trying to get pregnant, you have to wait at least a year if you're under the age of 35, or if you're 35 and older, 6 months before seeking fertility treatment. And when you experience a loss, that time resets from the time of your miscarriage. So we were trying from October of 2020, but since I had a miscarriage in January, I would have to wait a year from January. And then I had another miscarriage in August, so I'd have to wait a year from August. Now, thankfully, I was able to talk to my GYN, and she was able to run some blood work and an ultrasound based on other symptoms I was having. And then that did show some things that qualified me to go see a fertility doctor. She gave me the choice of seeing a fertility doctor right away or just doing what's called Clomid. So I decided to do Clomid first, and that's when we got pregnant in July and then had the miscarriage. So after having the second miscarriage, you know, of course I'm like, what's going on? Like, why can't I keep these pregnancies? And then she did say that I could go to the fertility doctor. So they recommended me to Dr. Boudinette, who I love. She is so knowledgeable, so caring. She has made this process so much smoother than I could have imagined. I'm in the process of seeing her right now. So I had my consultation with her in September of this year. Had the initial consultation. She ordered a bunch of blood work, another ultrasound. All of that came back normal. So I'm thankful that it was normal, but then it also didn't give me any answers to why this was happening. So she recommended that I do what's called an SIS, where they instill saline, use an x-ray, and they check the patency of your tubes, make sure there's no blockages or anything like that. And there wasn't. My tubes are good. Everything was good with that. So then the next step was to do what's called a saline sonogram, which is done in the office. And again, they use a catheter, they instill saline into the uterus and do an ultrasound while they're doing that to see if there's any abnormalities of the uterus, any polyps, any scarring, anything like that. When she did the saline sonogram, she saw what she thought was possible scarring on my uterus, and she said that could possibly be contributing to my miscarriages. So she recommended that I have surgery done to, it's called a hysteroscopy. They take a look inside the uterus, see if there's any abnormalities, she said to see what the scarring is, see how bad it is, and she can fix it. That was in September that I had that done. I had to wait until end of October 28th, to have the surgery, because she only does surgery on the 4th Thursday of every month. So we had to pause trying for a while. She didn't want me to get pregnant before having this done, in case it was something in the uterus contributing to the miscarriages, and she didn't want me to get pregnant and experience another miscarriage. So we stopped trying for a while. I had the surgery on the 28th. She said she found a polyp, which she removed. And it's not for certain if that is what was causing my miscarriages, but it could be a possible cause. So I'm hoping now that this is removed, and we're moving forward with trying again, that I'm gonna get pregnant and not experience another miscarriage. After the surgery, I went in the following Monday and had an ultrasound done. It was my baseline ultrasound, to see how my follicles were, when I should start the Clomid again, and then this time we were going to do what's called a trigger shot. So basically this whole process is called super ovulation, and we're doing it with timed intercourse, which timed intercourse is not fun because who wants to schedule it like a chore? But that's what we have to do. So you have to go in for ultrasounds every couple days, have your follicles checked, make sure they're growing to the appropriate size so you know when to do the Clomid and when to do the trigger shot. So I did that. My follicles were growing. I had, I think, 3 on the one side and 1 on the other side that she said were looking a good size and potentially has a mature egg in it. So I had 2 ultrasounds done, and then she said, okay, she told me exactly when to do the trigger shot. I did that, and then they tell you exactly when to have intercourse, which, you know, you have to schedule it, and it's not fun. It doesn't make it fun. It makes it like a chore, you know. So we did that, and now we're in the waiting stage of it. So you have to wait 2 weeks from your trigger shot until you can get blood work done to see if you're pregnant or not. Even if you take like a home pregnancy test, it's gonna come up positive because the trigger shot is basically HCG, which is the pregnancy hormone, and it can show up positive on a pregnancy test for 8 to 10 days after the shot. So even if I take a test right now, it would probably show up positive, or maybe at this point not anymore because it's been about, I think, 10 days since I did the trigger shot. So it might not be positive anymore. But I have to wait until I go Wednesday the 24th at 8 a.m. to get my blood work done. So the hardest part of all of this is just the wait. You have to wait to get the blood work, and every day you're wondering, am I pregnant? Am I not pregnant? Am I gonna have a miscarriage again? I think one of the hardest parts now too is if I do find out I'm pregnant again, I'm gonna be excited, but I'm also gonna be not excited because I'm gonna be scared of having another miscarriage. Hopefully the polyp was contributing to the reason why, and hopefully I can get pregnant and that's not gonna happen. I just wanted to share my experience with somebody who needs to see this, who's going through the same thing. Infertility is very common. Miscarriages are more common than people think. You probably know somebody who's experienced a miscarriage, who experienced infertility, who's now going through infertility treatments. It's a tough process. It's very difficult. It's very emotional. All the hormones you have to take, all the ultrasounds and monitoring you have to have done. It's very time consuming. And I've spent more money on pregnancy tests than I like to admit because I'm an obsessive pregnancy test taker. And if you've been in this situation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You want to take a test every single day. You see lines that aren't there. It seems like the most important thing in your entire life that you want right now. So it's just extremely difficult. I just want people to know it's not silly to feel sad over an early loss. It's still a loss, and it's still extremely hard to go through. I'm lucky that I have my husband who is extremely supportive, and when I went through both of my miscarriages, he let me lay in bed and cry the hardest I have cried and just hug me as tight as he could until that feeling went away. I'm still sad about my miscarriages. it does get a little bit easier to talk about. I know some people that I went to high school with, and just people in general that are also experiencing infertility and losses, and it's just so hard to go through. And you don't have to be alone. If you ever need to talk to anybody, I'm here. You can reach me in my inbox on Facebook. You can text me if you have my number, anything you want to do. And you know, part of this too that I wanted to share is you just never know what somebody is going through. If you're out in public and you see somebody having a bad day or taking it out on you, being rude, maybe they're just going through a difficult time. Maybe they're experiencing infertility or a loss. Maybe they just lost a family member or a loved one. Maybe they have someone who's sick and in the hospital. Or maybe they got diagnosed with cancer. You just never know what someone is going through. And what may be rude to you and someone having a bad day can just be them trying to make it through. Any little thing can set it off. If you're having a bad time, if you're going through a rough patch, even just dropping something can just make you want to cry, because it's just so emotionally draining. So next time you see somebody having a bad day, try to like put yourself in their shoes. Ask yourself what can make their day just a little bit better. Maybe it's holding the door for them, or buying them coffee, or even just smiling at them. Any little gesture can make someone's day so much better. I think that's all I really have to share right now. Like I said, I go for my blood work on the 24th, so I'm hoping that it's good news. If I am pregnant, I'm still going to be extremely anxious, even though I know that doesn't help, because I just do not want to experience another miscarriage. I don't know, it's just one of the hardest things you can go through. All right, well, I love you guys. Thank you for listening.